let me just say, I love that this video, the controversial video we're talking about, starts with a warning. The following contains explicit language and is intended for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised. I'm in. All right, so I'm gonna put the volume down and I'm gonna make hilarious comments as I go through it with you, because don't act like you haven't watched it 50 times. Or maybe waited for me. All right, so first of all, it starts with The View deciding to have a discussion about the morning after pill, which I'm just gonna say, based on my limited experience there, was probably very well discussed in the pre-meeting. And I'm guessing that they knew Elisabeth would pop off and freak out about it. And then Barbara, you know, probably told the executive producer, let's do this, this is gonna be explosive. I'm guessing, I can't tell you. Let's just talk about the panel. So it's Barbara Walters, who, you know, I've made fun of many times, and yet I love dearly. And I know she can't stand me, and that's fine. That's her calling now. And she, you know, she was a tough cookie. I'm sure she's softened now. The other panelists are Joy Behar, who throughout this entire tape, you can see has freaking seen some shit. Like, you can tell this is not the first. I remember Joy was there from like when Star was there and all that crazy stuff where Star got in trouble for trading out products for her wedding. When Meredith Vieira was there and was like, I'm out of here, I'm going to the Today Show. Lisa Ling, who was a serious journalist, just kind of went missing one day. The great thing about this tape too is when they chiron it. Also, just know that Barbara has her hair in what is called a bouffant hairstyle. That's going to come into place later. So the other panelists are also my friend Lisa Loeb, who's the singer. So my guess is Lisa's sitting there the whole time thinking, why don't I just have my fucking acoustic guitar and be singing somewhere in a corner, anywhere but here. So then the discussion gets a little heated, and Elisabeth looks appalled because everyone doesn't agree with her, and the morning after pill, which is really edgy. Then Elisabeth takes her note cards and goes off stage. Now, just let me just say that one of my favorite moments is, and I'm quoting Elisabeth Hasselbeck, fuck that! I'm not gonna sit there and get reprimanded on the air. Now, I think I just might make Hasselbeck going, fuck that, my new ringtone. I'll get back to you on that. All right. And by the way, when you take that job, you know a big part of it is getting reprimanded on the air. All right, so Joy is playing peacemaker, you were fine. Hasselbeck, I'm not gonna get reprimanded. It is not okay to sit there and get reprimanded. And Joy's like, yeah, I know. And Hasselbeck goes, what the fuck? I'm not going back out there. I'm not going back out there. All right, let me just say, if I had done that on any set, on any show, ever, I would be so fucking fired. It's ridiculous. So I have to, I'm admitted, I'm enjoying this fit. From, of all people, Elisabeth Hasselbeck, who was always, she started out being like sort of okay, but as the years went on, she was horrible to me. Also not a big reader, unless Fox News Talking Points is a book. You know what? I can take it in the meeting. I'm not taking it out there on air. I am not taking that. All right, so what she means is, before the show, they have this big meeting. And by the way, all the hair and makeup people are there, and some producers, sometimes there's more than others. So they discuss like a potential 20 topics, and I guarantee you this came up. So this did not surprise anyone. Then they give you questions on note cards, which, you know, sometimes I would stray from, which did not make me popular. But, you know, Elisabeth can't come up with a question by herself. That's my opinion, which is covered in the First Amendment, which is a t-shirt that I sell on my website at kathygriffin.com. All right, so Joy is saying, okay, honey, I know you're just saying. So Joy's just like, look, just, you know, get her to the Greek, basically. She's saying, get back from commercial. And then Elisabeth keeps going, what the fuck? I'm not going back. I can't do the show like this. She reprimanded me. She knew exactly what she was doing. That is so Valley of the Dolls, and also true, in my humble opinion, covered under the First Amendment. And then here's Hasselbeck goes like this, goodbye, I'm off. Like she's in Les Mis or something Dickensian. And then here's my favorite part. Write about that in the New York fucking Post. So my ringtone is either going to be, fuck that, or write about that in the New York fucking Post, which I will say, unfortunately, too many people in New York show business live and die by the Post, even though they know it's a tabloid. But it's owned by her old buddy, Rupert Murdoch. All right, so then the fit continues. And now she's like talking to, I'm not sure where. She stomps off, racing down the stairs to her dressing room. I will say the elevators there are very slow. So I'm kind of team Hasselbeck on this one frame. Barbara is mortified that Elisabeth has walked off during a live show. The producer, she doesn't want to come back on air. Barbara, she has to. Bill, she has to. That's why we should have had this discussion. All right, so just keep this in mind. Later on, when Bill, the producer, tries to say he reprimanded Barbara and had this whole conversation where he like called her to the carpet, clearly a different producer is telling Barbara this for the first time. The way you could hear Barbara going, she has to, Bill, she has to, which is, in my opinion, his signal to like, rawr, be a rabid dog and go get that blonde conservative. This is why we shouldn't have had this discussion. Then Joy is trying to make it nicer. I tried to stop her, she's gone. Barbara, well, this is ridiculous. That is ridiculous. And, you know, I'm sorry, but for this moment, I'm Team Barbara, who's, you know, done every kind of live television you can imagine. So she really does not understand why Hasselbeck has popped off. She really doesn't. All right, so now it's all about getting her back before the commercial break is over. And Hasselbeck says, I quit, I'm quitting. I don't need to be reprimanded. She's very into the phrase being reprimanded. I'm over, I'm leaving. That was a little foreshadowing. The I'm over part. It's terrible. Let me just give you a little context. I believe, I'm not a sports fanatic, but I believe that at this time, her husband was a football player named Tim Hasselbeck, and he was on the New York Giants, and he was the backup player for Eli Manning. So there's got to be a part of Hasselbeck, Elisabeth Hasselbeck, that's thinking like, maybe I should rethink this whole like quitting thing. Like if the husband's the backup for Eli Manning, maybe he's not going to be the breadwinner for his whole life. Plus he's an athlete. All right, I'm over, I'm leaving. Barbara just fully reprimanded me on the show to everyone in America. So apparently her Nielsen ratings are 100%. Every single person in America. All right, so now it's all about getting her back before the commercial break is over, and the team of people, the executive producer races to her dressing room to tell her she's got to come back on the show. He says, I already beat up Barbara about it. You're a professional. You've got to get back out there. He says, I've already reprimanded Barbara about that. Let me tell you something. Nobody reprimands Barbara Walters, okay? Maybe in the late 1800s, but not a minute since. So the idea that the producer's like, I reprimanded her, once again, is just hilarious. But again, he wants to get her back on the show no matter what. But it's my humble opinion that also everyone except the next guest, Sally Field, is excited about this. Let me tell you something. Sally Field is sitting backstage with her Oscars going, are you fucking kidding me? I should be saying what the fuck. Seriously? I've got Academy Awards. I don't even know who this chick is. What was she on Survivor? Was she did she win? She didn't even win? I'm Sally Field. I have to promote my show, Brothers and Sisters, which is on the same network, I believe. All right, so just keep that in mind. That's my guess of what was happening backstage. All right, so he tells you you've got less than 2 minutes to return. And then he says, Barbara was mortified. And then she reprimanded me. He goes, I already said something to her. Everyone said something to her. But you've got to go on because you're a pro. Now come with me. All right. I'm just going to go back to the girl from Survivor, and I think she was on like Dress for Less or something. Like, isn't like the ultimate. I'm going to go with Sally Field. If you're going to say you're a pro to anyone on that show. All right. So then she goes, Bill, you know what? And then Bill goes, I told her. I said, how could you do that? She said, do what? And then I said, look, Dusty was in my ear. I'm going to allege there's no Dusty. There's no one named Dusty. Maybe there's a Dusty, and I apologize to Dusty and Mr. and Mrs. Dusty, or I don't judge. But it just sounds a little like made up, like Dusty was in my ear, screaming, wrap it up, wrap it up. What am I supposed to do? And then I said, you tried to humiliate her for thinking what she thought. Okay, like I said, we've already played the part where Barbara is clearly hearing it for the first time from a completely different producer. All right, so these two are arguing, and now you can hear them getting ready. And Hasselbeck goes, no, it's not even that, Bill. It's like, to talk down to me, we have to learn how to discuss this quote. And he goes, you were not crazy. She thought she was making some transition. I mean, you got to come back. Let's take the stairs. Once again, it's a slow elevator. I mean, and they do like a soap opera there, so they can verify that. So they're running up and down the stairs, and Bill Getty's just going, I agree. And she goes, it's not okay. And he goes, I agree, it's not okay. And then she goes, you know what? You can get someone here who's going to sit there and just not be passionate. Well, have you heard of the group Menudo? That's what they do. If you don't fucking play by the rules. By the way, I know this is going to get me rebanned, but enjoy it while you can. So when she's like threatening, like, you know, they can just try to find somebody who's not going to be so passionate. Well, they did. They found, like, I think at least 10 more girls after her. All right, we're getting down the stairs. Then she goes, God! Which she is faithful. I don't even have my cards. I chucked them. Who doesn't know what to ask Sally Field? Okay, I don't mean to be, really? You need your cards to sit down? First of all, you know what my first question would be? How are you, Sally? Are you holding up okay? And then she goes, I'm sorry, I've never done this before, but I can't. I'm not even sure what that's referring to, but she probably has. And then she goes, 45 seconds. So now Hasselbeck herself is acting like the stage manager. 45 seconds. The point is she's got to get her ass down there to keep her gig. She goes, it's 30 seconds, I've got to go. Excuse me. So she's running past innocent bystanders. God only knows left. So there's a few seconds left, and you can hear like the audience warm-up person is getting the audience warmed up again, and now it's time for her to return. So she goes on camera, the audience cheers. She turns to Barbara and says, we'll talk about this, in a tone that Barbara doesn't play. So then Barbara responds, this is why we shouldn't have done it, because you're so emotional. And then Hasselbeck, who thinks she is working on a level playing field, which she's not, goes, but I don't want to be scolded for being emotional. And then Barbara Walters goes, you weren't scolded. I'm sorry, I'll translate. You weren't scolded. Now, you know there's a little part of me that wanted Barbara to say, you weren't scolded. You should see the things I used to say to Kathy Griffin. Horrible. All right, then Walters goes, can you handle this? Which, I guess there's theories floating out there that people, like Barbara was asking, like, can you handle this? Because, you know, I guess she was pregnant or in the early stages of pregnancy. I'm gonna assert she meant, can you handle this bitch? Because guess what? There are 10 other girls waiting in line. I'm just teasing. And then Hasselbeck wisely says yes. And then they have this big makeup session where they hug each other. Elisabeth is miserable. And then they do like a big hug. And then the other two panelists, who are Joy and Lisa Loeb, look at them, and they're so far away on the couch that you can tell they're afraid that Barbara was gonna, like, you know, take off a shoe and chuck it at Hasselbeck. And Hasselbeck gives Barbara a nookie like that on her beautiful bouffant, which she probably had like Mr. Frederic do or something in the salon for half an hour. And there's one point where Hasselbeck says, oh, I want to see if I can find it. She says something like, you know, something to the effect of like, I've never had to go through anything like this before, or I just can't, this is the worst thing, like something implying, you know, a little too much on the drama scale. And I have to admit, and this is dark and I'm going to hell, but I remember just thinking, you're right, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to anyone. Just ask that girl Malala. Wasn't Malala shot like 15 times by Al-Qaeda and still lived and got the Nobel Peace Prize? The point is, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to anyone. So those are my thoughts. I know this is just dishy tea, and I'm being extra bitchy today, and I haven't even read Hasselbeck's response, but I heard it contains the word faith, so I'm kind of out. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. It's a little rough, but you gotta laugh.